Welcome to a wandering walk tour of historic Pauls Valley. Pauls Valley is a city and the county seat of Garvin County in Oklahoma. The latest population is roughly about 6,000 people. Pauls Valley was settled and named for Smith Paul, a North Carolina native who married a Chickasaw woman and became a citizen of the Chickasaw Nation before the Civil War. The town economy is largely based on agriculture and oil production. Our walk begins in Paul Valley's Municipal Park. Here we get a chance to see a historic locomotive, locomotive number 280. It was constructed in 1907. It was operated by the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railroad. This locomotive was in service for 47 years until 1954. As we head into the historic commercial district of Pauls Valley, we see here what were once the remains of the Leland Hotel. The Leland Hotel was first built as a one-story building in 1895 of native stone. In 1910, a second story of brick was added. Sometime after 1979, unfortunately, this building burned to the ground, and all that's left is the facade. Pauls Valley is one of the oldest towns in Oklahoma, first settled in 1846. But its significance is not merely the age of the town. For many years, it was the economic capital of the old Chickasaw Nation. The business activity centered in the town stimulated the construction of many substantial structures, most of which, as we go along this walk, you'll see are still standing. The environment these historic buildings create allows us a unique glimpse into the lifestyle of the Chickasaw Nation. This way of life is gone forever, and the evidence of its existence can be found nowhere else. The recorded history of Pauls Valley usually begins with the arrival of Smith Paul in the Washita Valley around 1846. Paul was born near Newbern, North Carolina in 1809 and had spent much of his adult life living with the Chickasaw in Mississippi. When forced to cede their lands, the Chickasaws moved to Indian Territory, and Smith Paul accompanied the tribe to their new lands. At this time, Paul was employed by a Scottish trader named McClure, who had married into the tribe. After McClure's death, Paul married his widow, thus gaining Chickasaw citizenship. By 1871, Paul had over 200 acres under cultivation, with larger areas used for grazing and the whole region from the Washita River on the north to White Bed Hill on the west. The valley was primarily agriculture well into the 1880s with little commercial development. In 1886, Smith Paul's Valley could boast of only one store, a blacksmith shop, and a stage stand. Most business activity was centered at White Bed Hill, which is just to the west of town. It was the arrival of the Santa Fe Railroad which stimulated the growth of Pauls Valley as a commercial center. The railroad was also responsible for the town's new name. The new station master felt that Smith's Pauls Valley was unwielding, so when the first train pulled into the town, the travelers were welcomed to Pauls Valley. Though the town was platted in 1887 by J.J. Wiggins, the Chickasaw land system slowed construction of substantial buildings. In the Chickasaw Nation, land was held in common. This meant that city lots could not be sold, but only leased. It is therefore difficult to date exact structures built before 1906. In 1893, the Dawes Act was passed, and a real building boom began in Pauls Valley. The act required that the previously leased lots be purchased and improvements made. By 1898, the principal business district represented a frontage of almost 18 blocks with approximately 22 brick buildings and many, many more wooden structures. Brick for these buildings was produced at a kiln within the city limits. A few miles from town, there was a stone quarry that helped with the facades of many of the buildings you see today. One of the more interesting facts is that an itinerant Italian stonecutter was responsible for most of the stonework done in Pauls Valley. In 1895, a U.S. courthouse was built. Also, the first white school in Indian Territory was established, and brick buildings were built downtown. In 1909, the streets were bricked. Today, Pauls Valley has more brick streets, about 18,000 square yards, which is the most than any other town in the United States. From the late 1940s to the early 1950s, Pauls Valley was home to the Pauls Valley Raiders, a minor league baseball team. The Raiders were a member of the Class D Sooner State League, an affiliate of the New York Giants. The Field Brothers service station that you see in front of us was originally a Skelly gas station. The building was constructed in 1910 and then remodeled in the Art Deco style in the 1930s. It operated as a service station until 1983.